Okay. All right, here we go. Ready, guys? So the Uranus time-based age, it's a mouthful. Uranus time travel age-based transits. Thank you so much for being here today. This is literally my second live stream that I've put on, but this is the first one that I've tried to, make it all make sense and have something to teach you because that's really my main thing that I love to do. I love to teach. I've been a teacher my whole life since I went to school for being a teacher. And so I really want to apply what I've learned about astrology to you. I want to apply it to a way that you can understand it. So this is a class for any level of astrology. I'm going to be explaining it all. So it's very accessible, very practical, in a way that you can apply it immediately to your life, because that's my main goal. I don't want it to be just some philosophical concept. It needs to be practical. So a little more history about this particular talk. I gave it originally earlier this month in October at the San Diego Astrological Society, another mouthful. But that was such a blast. There was something that happened there at the end, which was super cool. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the presentation. It was a lady that was there. It was really cool. So if you're new here, my name is Lindsay Natale, and I often get called Natalie, but my name is Lindsay. I'm a practicing astrologer. I've read hundreds of natal charts in my client practice one-on-one, and I'm just passionate about it. I love astrology. I love making it useful and practical. And I do that through my videos here and my consultations. And if you want to know more, you can look at my website, www.elnatali.com. So now let's just get into this Uranian thing, since that's what we're here to do. So if you have your chart, you know where your Uranus is. That will be really helpful. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm going to show you everything you need to know, and are going to go on a really fun journey. So let's get started. Oop, here we go. So this is an overview of what we're going to do. I've kind of broken this into two parts. So we'll see how this goes, but this is the first part what we're going to be doing. And it's going to give us an idea, a setup of understanding specific turning points we need to know about Uranus. One thing that's really cool about astrology, you may or may not know, is that a lot of the things the planets do, the way they look, the way they move in space, is how we get the significations for what they do in our lives in astrology. So to set up the understanding of this whole Uranian thing that happens in our lives over 84 years and the specific turning points, we need to cover some essentials about Uranus. So its history, its timing, its unconventional nature. So it'll give you a really solid understanding. So part one, we're going to talk about what Uranus does in space, why it represents authenticity in astrology because of the way it is in space, and what these age-based transits even are. Then we're going to sort of preview what those 4 authenticity portals of the Uranian hero's journey in your life is. And then at that point, if anybody has any questions, I'll stop and look for that. Okay, then part 2, we're going to get into the details of the portals. The first Uranus square is ages 21 to 24. Uranus opposition is 42 to 46. Uranus second square is 63 to 67. The Uranus return happens between ages 84 and 88. But really, there's an on-ramp to it and an off-ramp to it. So it starts to apply and separate in the years around it. My belief is each one of these is about 7 years. It's the whole entire time that it takes to get through the sign wherever it's making an aspect to your natal Uranus. So then we're going to also have a chart example, and I'm going to give you all the tools you may need to decode your own Uranus story. And it's a PDF. It's on my website for free, and you can have that to help you. Okay, so let's start off with monkeys. Logical. Yeah. So the logical spot to start off for this talk is monkeys, and it's going to make sense. So last September, I was in this place called the Sacred Monkey Forest in Indonesia, and it was my first time experiencing monkeys outside of a zoo, which we have in America or most places in the West. There's a separation between you and the animal, but this was their world. I was a visitor in their domain, and there was no separation between the species. And so here's a little video. I hope it's coming through that you can see it. So I was taking a video, watching monkeys. Look how cute they are. They're just rascally little things playing. And I was sitting on a bench, and all that happens. This monkey literally sat next to me, and like, I don't know exactly what happened, because in the moment I just kind of freaked out and got up. And so I thought, okay, cool. You sit there. I'll sit here. And then because it was so unexpected, I just had this revelation, this thought that these very unpredictable authentic little critters are really reminding me of the ultimate disruptor and liberator in astrology, and that's Uranus. So even the name Uranus is an act of rebellion, disruption. It's a weird name. Uranus is how a lot of people say it, or Uranus or Uranus. I prefer to call it Uranus, like Ron Weasley from Harry Potter, Ron in the middle. But however you say it is fine, no problem, because I think Uranus probably thinks the jokes are funny. I'm guessing, right? And there's plenty of those to be had. So, no matter how you pronounce it, this is a consistent call. Uranus represents the authenticity storyline that flows through your life, and an octave of our life. It's one of the main things that happen along a long period. It's a drive towards freedom. It's awakening. It's a spark of personal evolution. So it's very rebellious too, unconventional, unpredictable, often disruptive, often strange and uncomfortable and weird, like monkeys. Like really, it's a good combination to think about these things. And I didn't know until just like yesterday. I was thinking about this because I planned to talk to you about it, and I realized that there's more to this monkey combination because Thoth is it's the Egyptian god Thoth, and also Hermes Trismegistus is related to Mercury. But this is Thoth in its ibis form. It's like that's the one that's very elegant. It's to go with writing and all these things that Thoth apparently did. But Thoth is also another form is the baboon, and the baboon I think relates to the Uranian principle of Thoth. So just a little budding theory I'm working on. So, all right. So here we go. This is one of my Hanuman. Yeah. This is one of my favorite astrology authors. His name's Stephen Arroyo. And this is what he says about Uranus. The planet Uranus symbolizes a force that manifests as sudden changes of life pattern, sudden alterations, flashes of insight, quick bursts of new ideas and original concepts. That's what Uranus does. It's because it's a great liberator, it's a great awakener, it's an illuminator. It's really intense. So just because they happen doesn't mean it's going to be easy or fun. Oftentimes it's the opposite, especially these squares and oppositions and those kinds of things that we're talking about today. But Uranus has to do this because it cuts away the old, revolutionizes one's way of being in an area indicated by the transit. So wherever that's happening for you, wherever the aspects are coming from, that's where you have a opportunity to change something. There's a reorganizing effect, but first it has to disorganize it. One's consciousness has to be disorganized in order to permit new growth to come forth. That's that's the way it is. So here's the Uranus bio. These are some informational things that I find fascinating. I hope you are interested in them as well. It was discovered March 13th, 1781 by a 42-year-old named William Herschel. This is him. He was an amateur astronomer. He was not even that's not even what his job was. He built his own telescope, a Newtonian telescope. It was a 7-foot focal length, 6.2-inch aperture. And he was just sitting in his garden in his backyard in Bath, England. And he was actually a musician by trade. He just was fascinated by astronomy. And he discovered Uranus at 42 years of age. And at this funny thing too, that it's the planet formerly known as George or Georgium Sidus. At one point, the planet was going to be called Herschel after him. That's what people assumed it should be called because he discovered it. But William Herschel wanted to name it after his king, King George. So it was known as George. And most people outside of England really did not like that name because it was really nationalistic, and a planet is for everybody. So it was 70 years before an official name was adopted. That's kind of wild to me. 70 years later, in 1850, the name was universally adopted, and it was mythic genealogy. So Uranus is the father of Kronos, that's Saturn, and Saturn was the father of Zeus, which is Jupiter, and that's the planetary lineup. So that's the way the order goes. It goes to Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. Now, what's really interesting about it is that this was the first trans-Saturnian planet for all of human existence to be found. This was a big deal because we've been looking at space forever and ever as humans. Oops, this is just crazy that there was another planet after millennia. And then it was Saturn. It was the one that Uranus had to usurp. So that's also important to know. Saturn was the boundary of all existence until this point. Yeah, George. Isn't that funny? George is the name of the planet. I thought that was hilarious. For 70 years, though, it was not named. It was just named H pretty much for a while. Okay. So Uranus, what does it do? It breaks through barriers. There's Uranus on the left and Saturn on the right. And from the start, it's been rebellious. It's been hiding out in space. It's been there the whole time, but not until the late 1700s were we going to get any awareness of it, because that was in alignment with the age of what is it called? Whatever Newton, whenever Newton was, I can't think of what the age of enlightenment. There you go. Takes a while sometimes. Anyways, Uranus was at the start, very rebellious, hiding out in space, away from this eye, and Saturn was the keeper of the border. And so, what's cool about this too is Uranus is approximately twice as far from the sun as Saturn is. So, if you think about it, it's Sun to Saturn. That's all the planets in between, the asteroid belt, everything, all of it, and then that whole entire space again, Sun as if to another Saturn, that whole space, that's where Uranus is. It's so far away. Yeah, it's almost exactly that distance away. So that's why it was really hard to see. You can't see it with your naked eye. So Uranus bursts through and is the antidote to everything that Saturn represents in astrology. This is from Robert Hand, another amazing astrologer, one of my favorites. He says, whereas Saturn creates neat and orderly, but sometimes oppressive the oppressive universe in which one feels one knows what's happening, Uranus intrudes with an energy that's unexpected and often disruptive. Uranus energies strive to break out of patterns that have become too rigid, even though one may wish to stay within them. Yeah, that's the deal. So Saturn creates this boundary, the circle around Saturn, everything that Saturn represents is to keep us in a reality that's predictable. And then Uranus says, no, I'm not doing that. So even the Uranus rotation fits into that vibe. So if you see, Uranus spins on its side instead of upright like the other planets. Its tilt is 98 degrees. It's almost completely sideways. Because of that tilt, Uranus has really weird, strange, long seasons. One pole of Saturn, we have a North Pole and a South Pole. One pole of Uranus gets sunlight for 42 years straight, and the other side is in darkness for 42 years, and then they switch. And then the magnetic field's really weird too. It's off center, it's tilted. Everything spins around it. The rings, the moon, everything's in a vertical path. So here's another way to explain it potentially. So if you look, those are all the planets. They're all standing in pretty much the same axial tilt. They're sort of up and down, except for Uranus. Uranus rolls like a ball rather than spinning like a top. So I hope that makes sense. Just to give you an idea that your Pluto's a little weird too. And that makes sense because Pluto is a little weird too. But you can see that the rest of them do something different. So what does that have to do with astrology? That's what I'm trying to explain, I guess, is that the major significations relate to how it behaves in space. And you can see that it's weird. And here's Joseph Campbell in the book Inner Reaches of Outer Space. He wrote this at the end of his lifetime when he was 82. And he summarizes all of this and his final thoughts on mythology, cosmology. This book is like his magnum opus at the end of his life. So it's what he completely came into his thoughts. And what he says here in this quote is that outer space and inner space are the same. It's the as above, so below. We are born from space. It was out of primordial space that the galaxy took form. Our eyes are the eyes of the earth. Our knowledge is the earth's knowledge, and earth is a production of space. So that's as above, so below. Yeah, it is a fabulous book. And then this is his most famous book. And I'm bringing this up because it's going to come up in the rest of our talk here. This is all foundational stuff. Hopefully this is all making sense. But Hero with a Thousand Faces is his most famous book. And from all the major films like Star Wars and everything, Lion King, all these big stories are based on the concept of universal patterns of myth. And he calls it the monomyth or the hero's journey. So interesting. He was 44 years old when he finished this draft. And it talks about the hero's journey, which is when a hero departs from an ordinary world, faces trials, transformation, and returns with wisdom that's benefiting others. And we're going to come back to that hero's journey because it's going to be applied to your Uranian cycle in your life. So hopefully this will give you just a little preview of what that is. The Uranus timeline. Now, this is where we're getting into why we're talking about this with astrology. Okay. Uranus takes 84 years to transit around, to orbit around the sun. So one Uranus year is 84 Earth years. Earth takes 365 days and Uranus takes 84 years. So every 7 years, when it moves into another sign through the zodiac, the ecliptic of the sky, all the planets move on that same ecliptic, that same line in the sky through those 12 zodiac signs. Every year, every 7 years, it moves into a new sign. So it's going to influence this mega astrology, the world, the mono astrology, like a monomyth. And then it floats down into our own individuation charts into our lives individually. But it always is going to give us a new urge in a new area of our life, a freedom from what came before. So there are 7 year periods, there are 12 of them that make up 84 years. And that's pretty much the typical human life cycle. I think that's kind of relevant. So think of that 12 7 year periods make up 84 years. And that's to go around the entire zodiac, to go around your entire chart. It'll touch every piece of your chart over that period. Uranus is the planet that's designed to disrupt the status quo and start something fresh. And so if you know this movie, this is the 7 Year Itch with Marilyn Monroe. It's when she's wearing that fabulous dress, that famous scene. It's the concept that after 7 years, things can become stagnant and bored and restless. This is for relationships, but I think it can relate to anything. You know, after 7 years, you kind of could get into a rut, and then something comes along and changes it all. So another thing I learned is that every 7 years, most of the cells in our body have totally replaced, and kind of another interesting correlation to the Uranus cycle of 7 years. So this is one other thing that you may or may not know, but it's really important. So in astrology, there's two kinds of transits. There are personal transits, which have to do just with you. They happen during your lifetime at a specific time just for you. And then there's something called age-based transits. So within 84 years, Uranus is going to combine with you, your natal planets, and your natal chart and affect every area of your life, but it could happen anytime. So if you were born, if you were born with the moon about square, maybe square to your Uranus, you're going to have a Uranus conjunct your moon when you're in your 20s. But if it's an opposition, you'll have Uranus conjunct your moon when you're in your 40s. If it's closer, you know, you can have Uranus conjunct your moon when you're 80. You can have it when you're 3 years old. It'll happen only once, but it'll happen at some time randomly for you. That's a personal transit. I hope that makes sense. Within these same 84 years, though, Uranus is going to make 4 major age-based transits to itself. So this happens for everyone around the same age. That's where I was talking about the 20s, the 40s, the 60s, and the 80s. That's going to be very, very general to pretty much everybody in that age range. I hope that makes sense. So Uranus in your natal chart is locked in place from when you were born. That's your natal promise. That's your fingerprint. I call it the fingerprint of God. That's not going to be repeated for 26,000 years. It's so specific to you. Uranus and all your planets, but specifically we're talking about Uranus. It's locked in place, but transiting Uranus is still going to be moving. And as it moves, it creates this orbit around the sun and an orbit around your natal chart. And then it's going to be getting into these geometric aspects with itself. So at this point, that's pretty much the bulk of the foundation of part 1 to get you to understand a little bit of why we're talking about Uranus in this cycle. So I'm just going to check the chat and see if there's any questions or thoughts at this point. look like? Anything I need to clarify or any questions about that? If not, then I guess we'll just keep on going. Okay, cool. Okay, so here is the main gist of this whole problem, this whole thing that we need to learn about. Because if we don't know about these Uranian thresholds, these age-based things, we can't make the most of them. So if we can't make the most of them, then I feel like an opportunity goes by, an opportunity for something amazing that you can manifest alongside this incredible planet. So there are four major thresholds of the age-based Uranus story, and there's shifts in polarities. And we're focusing more on the challenging aspects because that seems to be where uh, the real big experience happens of authenticity, a crossroads of authenticity. Squares and oppositions and the return, they form an actual cross. So that's why I call it the crossroads of authenticity. The first Uranus square is going to be 90 degrees angle. That's every square is a 90-degree angle, but it's Uranus to Uranus. Uranus opposition is 180. The second Uranus square is 90 degrees, but from the other side. And then the Uranus return is when it comes back to its beginning place. And sorry if my body isn't my of the words, but it's the best I could do there. Okay, so to illustrate this, I'm going to introduce you to this baby. I'll call him Uranus baby. This baby, I made a chart for this baby. It was born October 9th, 2025 in San Diego, California at 7:11 a.m. And I'm going to show you the baby's chart. It's going to have a lot in it. And I'm going to just sort of be deleting some of the pieces because we want to focus in on Uranus. So that blue glyph up here at the top, yeah, this guy right here, that's Uranus. So that's the glyph that we're going to be tracking. That's the only one we really need to know. Um, I see there's a question. I'm just going to Oh, astrocartography. Yeah, JK Druid, I see your question there about astrocartography and changing that. Confused on which one you should use, you should always use your original natal chart for this, because where you move to, it can adjust. Yeah, you're living somewhere farther away, so it will adjust some of the significations or maybe where it's be coming through. But natally, a natal promise is always going to be the place you look, the beginning place where you started. Everything kind of comes back to that because we're coded in that way. I'll be careful with this microphone because this girl likes to get in on the action and turn it off. So anyway, JK Druid, use your natal chart. So baby, this is our Uranus baby. And this baby was born with Uranus in the ninth house in Gemini at 1 degree Gemini. And all of the life this baby is going to have it. So here's UB's starting position. I'm calling UB for short, the baby, Uranus baby. And it has this spot forever. That's always going to be the natal Uranus. We all have one in our chart. You have one in your chart. It's unique. It's specific. It's your starting point. Could be in any house. It could be in any of these 12 houses for you, and any sign, any degree. And that will be really relevant to help you understand. So just locating where your Uranus is, it will be helpful to know for the house. I use whole sign, but you can use Placidus as well if you like, or any other way. But this baby is going to be in the ninth house, and it's really easier for whole sign if you use whole sign for these kind of predictive things. It's just so much cleaner. It's so much cleaner and easier to use for an objective view, whereas I think Placidus is more subjective. But anyway, that was a little tangent there. So for UB natal Uranus and Gemini in the ninth house, this is going to be a person. This baby will grow up to be somebody that has a mind that's going to crave open horizons, ninth house stuff. They could be oriented towards innovation and education or changing systems. You know, ninth house is systematic, questioning belief systems, cultural assumptions, translating concepts that are complex into new, resetting complex concepts into liberating frameworks. Any baby that's born about right now is going to have a Uranus in Gemini, yes, or Gemini or and degrees of Taurus. So that's going to be an interesting group of kids. This is a really cool diagram. I found this person named, I can't remember what her name is, Thea. Thea, this was something I was allowed to modify. So as long as I made sure her name was there and my name was there, that there's modifications. But I just really like this because it kind of gives you an idea of how Uranus moves around the natal chart, aligning with the hero's journey. So the starting point, this is like the birth of where Yubi was born right here, or where you were born. It's the 0 degree. This is 0 point of your natal position, starting point. And then this is going to be where four things have gone by. The square. Square is mm, like a square is 90 degrees or 4 steps. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Crossing the threshold. The first Uranus square happens between age 21 to 24. And then you enter the special world. This is the second kind of half of life, or like between the space, between the two squares, pretty much. And so down here, after 4 more steps, is going to be the opposition, the ordeal of the abyss, facing the shadow self. That's the Uranus opposition. It's when it's exactly opposed to your natal position. Uranus has taken 41 years, 42 years, and that's where it's going to be. Then the refusal of the return is the second Uranus square, ages 63 to 67. And that's just another 90-degree angle, a square. Then you're on the road back home after that, working through Master of Two Worlds to return with special knowledge. When we get to this age, Uranus return is when Uranus returns back to the original location, back to, for Uranus baby, it'll be at 1 degree of Gemini in the 9th house. So hopefully that makes sense. Uranus returns to the start here, and then the next level happens, ascent to a higher plane. So let's fast forward to Yubi from a newborn to being about 20 years old in the year 2046. This is just a visual. On the inside is Yubi's original natal chart. There's that Uranus right there at 1 degree Gemini. And here's how far it's traveled on the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 steps. This is what happens during this period of time. Think back to your age of that age, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, that age, and go back to your time at that age and think about what you were rebelling against. What was the mindset? What were you trying to break away from or get away from? Or what were you experiencing for the first time? That's the call to freedom. And the square geometry indicates it's 90 degrees. It's frictional, but it's dynamic. There's a confrontation. It's of the nature of Mars. There's something that it's fighting. It's a fight kind of thing. And it doesn't mean that it's bad or anything. It just means that there's some breaking away. And sometimes breaking away is really difficult, or unexpected things happen when you go out into the adult world for the first time, no longer being a child or under the rule of your parents or whatever, making choices outside your family orbit. So this could be your college years, your first job, your first relationship, exploring your autonomy, authenticity. So here are the ages, and this is the key word to remember: rebellion, exploration, liberation, originality. The first time when you're out in the world and doing something. And a lot of times this is like, you just can't not do it. That's the feeling. You just have this pulse and energy inside that you're like, I have to do this thing. That's the first square. So here's Yubi's first square in 2046. So this little one now is in their 20s, and it might arrive because if you notice, it's coming from, it'll always be in the mutable signs for this baby, because this baby was born with Gemini. It's a mutable sign. So all the mutable signs are where they're going to light up for this baby. The first one's in the 12th house. And so if you know anything about the 12th house, you know that's kind of a complicated house. And the first awakening for this person may be some deep inner restlessness that calls them inward. 12th house is an inward space, an inner space, and going inward in order to go outward. It's a dissolving of worldviews. Maybe this person goes on a journey, like goes away from the family, away from everybody that they know, right? Because the 9th house is where they're set up. They have this desire probably to travel, explore, learn things. But maybe this is their first step into the world where they do something on their own and away from everyone else, a kind of an isolated thing. Anyway, the rest of the whole chart's happening too, but this is kind of just an idea. So we're going to fast forward now another 21 years to Portal 2. This is the Uranus opposition, which happens ages 42 to 46, it's the midway point. It's the midlife revolution, the crisis of authenticity. A lot of other transits, like life transits that happen for everybody, happen around this same time. That's why the midlife is so complex and it's a turning point, a big one. It's the halfway point of the whole system. So here's UB's Uranus opposition. It's coming from down here in the third house. If you can see, there's Uranus again and opposing the natal Uranus in the ninth. So let's think back, or if you're there right now, or if it's coming up for you, to ages 42 to 46. And honestly, it starts and can go a little longer than this. It just depends on your own, where your Uranus is. But this is a time when something's being reevaluated. There's a face-off. So oppositions are of the nature of Saturn. There's more of a face-off here, whereas Mars and the squares are action-based. You have to do something. This is more like looking in the mirror and determining what part of your life is not aligned, what is not authentic to you, what are you being called to do or break free from. And this is the full moon of the Uranus cycle. It's like the same setup of the aspect of when a moon is full, the sun and the moon are on opposite sides. This is Uranus showing it itself. It's a revelation. And classical midlife awakening, yeah, that's when people get all sorts of stuff happening to them in their lives. The key words here again are rebellion, exploration, liberation, and innovation. And it's the genius transit. That's basically what started my whole my whole thing here on YouTube, and really understanding the initiation. This was Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas. I was reading this book basically, and there's a lot of details in this book. It's really heavy, it's really thick, but he mentions the Uranus opposition and how many significant discoveries and publications, masterworks. You won't believe how many, all happening within a few degrees of these people's Uranus opposition. So Galileo made his first telescope discoveries in 1609 at age 45. Descartes, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. He published his masterwork, The Discourse on Method, which is the foundation of modern philosophy. Newton, Isaac Newton, he published the foundational work of modern science, Principia, in 1687. He was 44 years old. And a few more in the book. He doesn't have too many women in the book, so I kind of like balancing things out, the yin and the yang. We also have Marie Curie in 1911. She won her second Nobel Prize in chemistry. And yeah, it's her second one. But the thing that marks this differently is that this is the first one that she was recognized by herself without her husband, Pierre, as the authority figure. So she's her own authority in science at this point, which is kind of cool. Laura Ingalls Wilder, she wrote the Little House on the Prairie series, and she started writing the foundations of those books in 1911 when she was 44. And Martha Stewart launched her first book that builds her empire. It's called Entertaining at age 44. Uranus opposition is, if you feel like you've missed it, I see your comment there, Stacey. It's still there. You can return to it back in time and align yourself with it if you feel like you might have missed something. I was at the crossroads of a Uranus opposition. Basically, I was feeling all that restless stuff in my life. And so that's when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And spreading the word shouldn't be there yet, but it is. So just go with that. But I was feeling very restless in my life. I was pulling something pulling inside of me, authentic and scary. That's the thing. Like it's not going to be fun. None of these things are going to be fun. You have to challenge yourself. Uranus square too, the first Uranus square. I did something that went against other people's desires for me. I did a couple things that people didn't like, and I had to do it anyway. It was just pulling on me. So this one was my Uranus opposition, and that's when I started really believing in myself to do this astrological professional thing, to take the coursework, to open up a practice, to learn and to invest in myself. So that's what happened at this time, and that was my personal story. I wanted to understand. I read that book, Cosmos and Psyche, and I was just about to go into the genius transit and I wanted it. Like, I wanted it all. I wanted to take it and hold it and, like, make the most of it, and I was wondering why nobody was talking about this Uranus cycle, because it's so critical, and it led me to spreading the word, and that's when I started my Uranus channel, basically. That's what we're doing here on this channel is so Uranian, and it opened up the door for me. So those are my first 4 videos that I did. I did this in, November 26, 2021, and that was when I started my first video, and it wasn't easy because Uranus stuff isn't easy. It was really challenging to me. It still is challenging to me. It's challenging to be doing these things because they're not intended to be easy. It's the next level of Saturn, like post Saturn. Saturn stuff is hard. Uranian stuff is hard too because it makes you grow and learn and change and be strong and resilient and more confident if you take the hand. And it's been a great teacher for me in my life, worth every second being in this experience. And it just shows you, like, when you put yourself in these, this is personal to me because of the location of my Uranus. I'm not saying everybody should have this YouTube experience or whatever. This is just my story. And when we do these things that are frightening to us or scary to us, even though we know it's going to pay off in the end if we do it, that's when you get the alchemized treasure. And this was just my personal story. So as far as the Uranus opposition goes, I'm just passionate about it. So I'm spending a little longer here. But I mentioned the ages of some of the people in this talk already. And William Herschel was one of them. If you remember, he's the guy that discovered Uranus. He was age 42. He was in his Uranus opposition. Joseph Campbell wrote Hero's Journey, Masterwork, ages 42 to 45, right there in the midst of his Uranus opposition. And that's um, gonna be cool too, because when he was 82, he wrote his final book, and that comes up later, right? So he has these turning points as well. And Richard Tarnas, who wrote Cosmos and Psyche, he wrote his first book, Passion of the Western Mind, Understanding the Ideas That Have Shaped Our Worldview, in 1991. He was 41 years old at the time of the publication. And what that allowed him to do, it built up his reputation so that he could write this Cosmos and Psyche book, which he is an academic or whatever, but writing an astrology book is kind of has been not always looked upon as high level sort of thing, but he took it to the next level, and he was able to do that in that period of time. So here's UB again. UB having the Uranus opposition at age 40, and there's UB's 40 up there. Anyway, UB is at the crossroads. So Uranus is in the 3rd house for UB at this time. And so thinking about what could be changing, what could be the face off here, because coming from the 9th to the 3rd house, the 3rd house rules how we think day to day, how we speak, how we write, listen, connect, our community, local community. So Sagittarius is expanding the horizons. Generally, that's what it does. So there's a sudden urge potentially to live what they know, to make truth really immediate, to embody it, to write about the thing that they've been learning about potentially. And maybe for anyone in this period, it's just a restlessness. So 3rd house would come from things being boring in your environment, like having to change the way you think or work or talk, perspectives that reframe life direction, radical honesty, travel or learning experiences that's going to shock the mind into something new. They're going to fast forward another 21 years. That's the end of the opposition. So into the 21 years of Portal 3, we're going into the waning Uranus square. So you can kind of see how this is kind of relating to the moon cycle, but it's the Uranus cycle. This is the waning Uranus square, ages 63 to 67. And that's the refusal of the return. This is a really rebellious period of time, and it mirrors the first Uranus square. I'm going to talk about that more. So here's when UB is nearing 64, second Uranus square. You can see it's coming from the 6th house, 6th to the 9th house. Again, it's the 90 degrees. It's frictional. There's going to be some action. Going to have to do something. So the second Uranus square is a call to freedom. So if you're going towards it, or if you're in that period, or if you've passed that period, it's a transition. You really should think about what that period is. It's that ages 63 to 67, dynamic, confrontational and active, and mirror, like I mentioned, the keywords are renewal, independence, and fulfillment. This is interesting. It's not something to be frightened of if you know about it, especially because it can give you an opportunity to pursue more things that were put on the back burner when you were 20, 21, 22, 23, whatever you got into then. It kind of sets your life up, your work, your family, getting through college, maybe getting married, relationships, whatever, start having babies. Maybe not nowadays because people wait longer, but a lot of people had kids in that era of the first square. And so whatever opened during that first square or around that time, it's a start of a movement to close some of those doors, potentially through maturity, energy of innovation, a movement towards wisdom, and pursuing dormant passions. This is what's cool about it. It's about reclaiming your life for yourself. It's a second youth with the benefits of all these things. Yeah. It's like, I use my stepdad for an example. He's so awesome. He was there at my talk, and he loves music. He loves to play music, and he worked so hard. He went to school young, and he had so much responsibility, started a business, had all of the life experiences. And then when he got to this point, he started playing music and he started getting into bands. And now he's like in 6 bands. He loves bass playing, and he plays, and he's having his second youth and having so much fun because he's been freed up, potentially through retirement, or the kids are grown up or whatever. And you have more time and space to do the things you want to do. Cocoon age. So funny. So UV is around 62. You can see that's coming here. So I feel like during this period, UV's probably feeling really restless. 6th house is work, health, daily routines. So restlessness in their daily habits, maybe wants to quit the long held jobs or restructure routines. Maybe they're getting some intuitive flashes. This is going to be in Pisces for UB. So it connects to a higher level, a higher connection of humanity, health breakthroughs, possibly sudden awareness of body-mind connection, small but liberating surprises, and community roles. I think maybe also underlying theme could be bringing visionary insight, whatever they learned throughout this period, into practicality, making it work. I don't know, there's lots of things that could be a lot of opportunities and changes and shifts going on at this period, but thematically, it'll still be what do I want to do with my day to day that's going to affect my higher level philosophy. That's kind of where it's coming from for UB. There we go. Portal 4. We're back around 21 years to the Uranus return. That's back to home base after a lifetime of experience. 84 to 88 years old. So UB is 83 years old in 10 months at this point when Uranus is back. So if you see, the glyph is back to the start at 0100 Gemini. It's right here. They're aligned. So that's when it's returned back home. And UB is 83 years old on July 4th, 2109. Our little baby, so grown up. And Uranus return. So we can project into the future, or maybe you're there. This is a moment in the journey around the mid-80s, and it's returned to a starting point of 0 degrees. It's a masterwork that's inside of authentic life experience. It's within you. It's brought you something over your 84 years of authentic experiences, intuitive pushes, pulls through freedom, excitement, liberation. And the keywords for this era is enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, and reset. It's true freedom. And you can do whatever you want to do at this point. So at the talk, this is what I told you I was going to tell you. At the talk, there was a lady there, and a lady that her name is Tawny, and she was brand new to the Astrological Society. And she raised her hand and said, "I'm there. I'm going to be turning 88." I think she was going to be turning 88 later that week. And she had the same nodes. She had Virgo and Taurus. I'm sorry, Virgo and Pisces nodes. And she was a Taurus. I think she was going to a Taurus moon or something. I don't know why I thought Taurus, but she had those nodes basically, and she was in her Uranus return. So she had Uranus in, um, that's right, that's what it was. Yeah. So she had Uranus in Taurus. Yeah, so she was turning 88. She was having her Uranus return, was finishing up. So she'd had the whole experience. That's what it was. I had to track my memory on her. But Tawny just basically raised her hand and said, "Yeah, everything that you're saying is on point. I'm at this point in my life where I'm totally free. I've transcended. I have all this energy, and I want to talk to people, be with people." You can become more eccentric and liberated. Anything that she was afraid to do before, she didn't feel afraid to express or be or do, and be more fully herself than ever. So this was just a really neat experience that she was there as like a representative of this age. Anyway, so Uranus returns to home. UB is 83. And at this moment, I think of it as a culmination of inner freedom back to that ninth house, the Uranian birth spot, and understanding really something deep about their lifetime. The ninth house story has come to a realization. So, philosophy, teaching, writing, mentorship, publishing could have been something that is curiosity driven and exploration driven, a strong sense of self actualization at this point of, for all of us, who we are is who you were meant to be in the first place. It's like just returning back home to the start, but you're at another level. So potentially you be, because this is a ninth house, I just imagine you be having bursts of creativity here at this age, wanting to still travel, maybe go see the pyramids with her own eyes or his own eyes for the first time, something like that, really connected to a larger cosmic or philosophical pattern, and watching that cross a lifetime, just like Tawny and UB will be at that point way in the future. So what happens next? Ascent to a higher plane. It doesn't end when you're 84 or 88 or whatever. As long as we live, we can keep going along this circle, but it's at a new level now. We've returned with special knowledge and moving on to a new trip around the sun for Uranus and around your chart. So, okay, so I'll just pause there for a second to see if anybody has any questions or thoughts on that. Oh yeah, second, you're on. Yeah, it's around the same time for the J.K. Druid said the third stage of Uranus square sounds like the second Saturn return. They're around the same, yeah, same period. Um, it looks like a question. How to find out when the exact time of my Uranus opposition was? Yes, I can absolutely tell you how to find that. It's I can do it. I can do it on here if you want, or this is getting kind of long, but yeah, I can do that as a second, like a little one I can do separately, Stacy. But yeah, it's really easy to find on astro.seek, and you can find a million things there as far as all your cycles go. It's really cool. Actually, I wish I had it pulled up right now. I could show you. It's really cool. You're getting me excited. Okay, stay focused. But yeah, I can definitely show you how to do that. Um, all right, so if there's not anything else, I just want to show you this. This is a little page I made for you guys to, oh yeah, so smart. Yeah, Nine of Diamonds. Would you consider Uranus energy similar to the Fool? Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely, yes. Especially with thinking about that circle and going back, the Fool being 0 and 22. It's like a full cycle. And then Fool starts a new journey. There's no ending. There's no ending to it. As long as we live, we're still learning, like Tawny. She was going on and doing her thing. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So this is just a PDF. It's for free on my website. I uploaded it for you guys to take and download for yourself. And it helps you kind of understand. It gives you the overview of what I've talked about today, and also a little bit on the cross of if it's cardinal, mutable, or fixed for you. So wherever it starts, if it started in a cardinal sign like Aries or Cancer or Libra or Capricorn, it'll always be cardinal. So that gives you an idea of what kind of energy is coming at you when you have your Uranian cross, your life cross of those challenging, more challenging aspects. And if it's fixed in Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, it's more like digging in, digging in and facing things that you might not want to face, and because those signs that are more a little stubborn. And then mutable signs, if it's in Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, like Yubi, it's going to be more of a flow. It's about being um, moving along with whatever energy it is and trying to take in all of the aspects at once. So that's the first side of it. And then this side shows where it turns up, the natal themes of the houses. So if you look at where it started for you, like Yubi's was in the ninth house, you can just count and remember it was 1, 2, 3. This is four, 4 spaces. It's in the 12th house for the first Uranus square. And then 1, 2, 3, it was in the third house for the opposition. 1, 2, 3, it was in the sixth house for the second square. 1, 2, 3, and then back to the ninth house. So if you know where your starting point is, then you can tell where the houses are that are going to be lit up. If you have them in the angular houses, like first, fourth, seventh, or 10th, believe me, you'll know. You'll feel these a whole lot more, because that is the cross that like holds up our whole life. The whole chart is held up by the cardinal cross. So if you have Uranus in one of those houses, it's going to be more probably intense. And then the cadent and the other houses are going to be just, you can look at it, figure it out. It's there. So here is the example that I have, and it's Barbara Streisand. I'll go through it pretty quickly because this is already getting kind of long-winded, but I thought this was really interesting. Barbara Streisand, I've read her, I was listening to it actually, her biography that she just released not too long ago. And she basically is telling her whole life from her perspective. The It took her forever to write this book, and it's really long. I was listening to it and it's like 42 hours long. So I did not finish it, but I was fascinated to try and align it with her astrology to figure it out. But her first her Uranus natal starting position is here. It's with Saturn. It's conjunct Saturn. If you see that, this arrow is pointing right to it. That's her starting point in her second house. And so when she was 22, 20 to 22, that was the first one. It was about her rebellion and independence. And that's when she became really, really famous. She hit the scene. So when her first square was coming here from the fifth house to the second house. So her whole natal setup, though, is to bring some stability through Saturn to her Uranian uniqueness. And it's in Taurus. She's really famous for that voice. If you listen to her sing when she was in her early 20s, even if you're not I'm not a Barbara Streisand fanatic or anything, I promise. But if you listen to her sing at that era when she's in her 20s, like, girl could sing, man. And then she's also Taurus Sun, conjunct Mercury. And this is all going to come into her Uranian story consistently, because it's just when it's a conjunction, these two planets become one. So it's very interesting, because if you remember earlier, we talked about how Uranus broke Saturn. It broke the barrier of Saturn, but she's an avatar of somebody who's putting them back together again. So creating structure from unpredictability and authenticity. So first square was hitting her here at where her Leo moon, Chiron, Pluto in the fifth house. And that was when she was really breaking out. And for fifth house is your house of bliss and joy, pleasure. That Leo is the star, and being self-expressive, expressing something. And then she has this ability to put herself into these characters or into this place when she sings a song where she's transmitting something very, very powerful. And it's probably got to do with that Chiron conjunction to her moon and Pluto being in there. But anyway, Happy Days Are Here Again. That's when she sang with Judy Garland. She hit, when she was 22, hit the number 5 for the song People from Funny Girl. And then she was on Broadway. She was in Funny Girl on television. She was in her Judy Garland show. She got married at this time, which is a fifth house thing. And she had her son during this period as well. And marriage is not fifth house, but falling in love and dating and romances. And so she fell in love and got married at this time. But the first square was like her breakout as a star. And she just hit the scene running, basically. How the thing about her though is that she was never anybody's fool. That's the Saturn part. She said right away, I am not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm going to be in charge of the songs that are on my records. She was very authoritarian about her authenticity and personal expression. So, um, she got a creative partner during this period. And oh, yeah, this was the other thing. She refused to conform. She rejected nose surgery and embraced her authentic voice, her Brooklyn identity, the way she talked. And that was part of that Uranian influence. So that's her first square. Then her opposition happened up here in 82 to 84, 1982 to 84. That's her midlife transformation, activated her eighth house. And that's shared resources, transformation of intense power, right? With Scorpio. This is what was happening around this time for her is the film Yentl. If you remember that, 1983, she was 41 years old. She was the first woman to hold all four roles in a major film. She directed, produced, co-wrote, and starred in this film and won the Golden Globe for Best Director at this time. And the thing that happened, she did get divorced from her husband. Her husband is Elliot Gould. I thought that was kind of interesting too. But she was divorced at this time. But the transformation here, I mean, she was really digging deep into herself. The Yentl thing was about defying like gender norms. She was really like on the forefront of all that stuff. And she also had another relationship that ended, which is a very eighth house scorpionic thing. And she took creative control. This is another thing about Scorpio, wants to control things to feel safe. But she took control of her transformation, shared resources. She was balancing her personal and professional reinvention during this time. So that was just another interesting thing that had to do with her opposition. And her second square happened here. So coming into her 11th house. And this is a picture of her when she was 63 to 65. That's when that was happening, 2005 to 2007. That was a challenging, probably, transit for her because it was a square, but she was starring in some movies. She was in Meet the Fockers. She was on a tour in 2006 when she was 64, and it's one of her highest grossing tours. But she's famous for, I don't know if you can hear my dog. My dog's howling. He gets sad sometimes and has to sing a song like Pavarotti. I don't know why, but he does. There, he's done. So anyways, yeah, so she was in Meet the Fockers. She was on this tour, which was one of the highest grossing tours of the year, but she has stage fright, which actually initiated during her first Uranus Square when she was in her 20s. She was in a play on Broadway called Funny Girl, and she was with Charlie Chaplin's son, who was the actor co-star. And he had a thing for her, and she kind of said, "No, I'm not into you." And he got really mad at her. So he started to sabotage every night the play. And that made her unsure. That was part of her Uranus square as well, and not trusting the experience. And so it went through her whole life. So when she was 64, she was still facing her fear of stage fright. Anyway, she, at this point, had gotten into a relationship in her trine, the Uranus trines with James Brolin. And basically, another thing somebody mentioned at the Astrological Society is that this was also the time during the Streisand effect, if you've heard of that. So she had some people taking, like paparazzi, were taking pictures of her house, and she got really upset about it and made a big fuss about it. And she wanted her privacy, right? She wanted, this is Aquarian square, to her always wanting privacy, right? That Aquarian thing, and versus her Saturn, Uranus, and Taurus, wanting security and things to be foundationally private. Anyway, the Streisand effect is basically when you point something out, it makes everybody else look at it. And nobody would have even noticed it if she would have just been quiet. Nobody would have known where she lived. And anyway, that's another thing that happened, a square thing. And then her Uranus return, that comes back to Uranus here at 20, I think it says 26. I can't really see. It's kind of small on my screen, but yeah, it's returning here to the original place. And that is basically right now for her. It's been around this age, 83 to 84. This is the marking of her cycle coming to an end, or that particular bit, and her reflection on her legacy, sparking new beginnings. So she is still making music. She's making music with like popular artists like Hosier, and I don't know. She picks whoever she wants to sing with, and they do duets. She wrote this memoir. That's the main thing. That's why I chose her, just because didn't she'd been very private her whole life and didn't want to, even pipe in on stories. She wants to just she just wants to be a singer and an actress. She doesn't need everybody to want to know everything about her. But then when she gets to this point, her return, she does something structured, Saturnian and Uranian, and speaks her whole entire story. So if you listen to her audiobook, she's talking the whole time. It's pretty fun to listen to her talk about her life, but it's 40 something hours. So anyway, yeah, so this biography, memoir, whatever, she details her whole life and finally gets her own side of the story out there. So that's the example of that. Anyway, so yeah, so thank you so much for being here with me for this. I hope this was interesting. If you have any other questions, I'll just check and see. But I think, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Hope you can apply it. So the main goal that I have is, if you want to get this PDF, you can go to my website. It's under the store, and it's just in the free area, and you can download that for yourself, apply it, and find your house of where Uranus is. That will give you an extra. But if you just know the sign too, if you can just figure out, and that's pretty easy. If you just know your birth, you can go in, like, even on Google, and just say, where was Uranus in this day? Which house, which sign, astrological. So much stuff you can look up that way. Anyways, okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much. And I like you just the way you are. I'll talk to you next time.